Okay, so nobody's getting the truth from the mainstream media, folks. It's well past time to open your eyes, your ears, and your mind. Do your own research because something isn't right here. And if you can't see that, you are not paying attention, folks.
It's the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. Now that's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The important message that we need Australians to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. In line with that, I do encourage all Australians to please go and book your vaccinations as soon as you can if you haven't already done so.
Emma, get away!
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Okay, we need to stand up against this tyranny, folks. Stop giving away your freedoms and liberties, because the more you give up, the more these people will take until you have absolutely nothing left. That's their agenda.
And g'day everybody, welcome to the show tonight. I'm Wade Northhausen from Billboard Battalion and filling in tonight with Caz for Dave, for Guru. We'll just, Guru's got a bit of a thing going on, a bit of a crook tooth there. So we're going to start to talk tonight about a few of the issues that are in the media at the minute. The last couple of days, or the last couple of weeks actually, we've seen a lot happening from the Australian Federal Police, who are in the business of supposedly creating some sort of a pass in the AFP to deal with people who go against social cohesion. We've seen a lot happening in Western Australia just recently, with the minister over there saying people who are sovereign citizens or connected to sovereign citizens, they're going to start banning their registration on their cars. They're going to, and they've actually been running around cancelling shooters' licenses and stealing guns from people based on just because on some political view or what have you. And so we wanted to go into tonight, and we'll look at this in a little bit more in depth. But we've seen Lydia Thorpe just yesterday coming out and making some pretty brash statements with regard to the Palestine side of things, everything that's happening at the minute in Australia and for that matter worldwide. And when we see the AFP, ASIO, different politicians talk about people such as us who might just say, well, listen, we actually want to have freedom and safety in Australia, and we want to hold our politicians to account, and we want to call them out if they tell lies and they do things that are very, very seriously bad for us. The AFP talks about, getting stuck into people who are what they call domestic terrorists. This is a new term for someone like us. And we see Lydia Thorpe saying yesterday words to the effect that, she, in defence of Palestine, or words to that effect, she wants to look at burning down Parliament. And I think that this is a very, very serious a very serious issue. And, this is something that we're going to have to keep a good eye on, and we're going to have to really push this, because when we see the extreme nutcase loony left carry on like that, we see the reality of Australia where, the people who are actually trying to push the violence, the people who are really trying to push things and create the social catastrophes that we see, they're not the average everyday people who are just what we might call freedom fighters or the average Aussies. We're starting to see these people really show their colours now. So I think we really need to push back on that and really start to push that information out and stand up for what we know is right, because we're at a very dangerous crossroads now where they're putting in place very serious legislation, very serious things to shut down decent and good people, and this is very bad. So, g'day there, Caz. How you going, mate?
I'm good. How are you? Yeah, no, I was just thinking actually while you're talking that it's just outrageous because the scales of justice are blind. They've tipped it upside down so that we can't get justice, and they've made themselves above the law. And as Wayne Blue put out, it's not us who are the sovereign citizens, it's them. They've made themselves the sovereign citizens.
Absolutely. And look, this has been going on for a long, long time now, and we need more and more people to actually take some notice of this, because how many times do you see politicians asked a question and they turn around and just completely avoid the question and tell everybody what a great job they're doing in the face of whatever the hell's happening at that time, and they quote some garbage and some crap about something that's got nothing to do with anything, while they're building laws to attack decent, ordinary, everyday Australians and protect the ones who are the real criminals.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And there was no greater example of that than yesterday. So John Adams, he got through a FOIA request, he got a 1975 release of an ABC production, which outlined the most disgusting things, and he wasn't able to release it to the public, so he released the audio. And then the YouTube took it down, and the ABC's lawyers threatened him. But he didn't take it. He didn't take it lying down. He's actually contacted the media about it. And you can see here, so even the Daily Mail have decided to actually run it. So ABC issues stark legal threat against average Aussie who republished the most revolting segment of the broadcast ever aired from 50 years ago. And it was disgusting. I've listened to part of it. I haven't listened to all of it, but it was so vile because they were trying. It's very clear that they were trying to normalise pedophilia. And what they were doing is they were just talking about it in very casual terms about how, and they don't call themselves pedophiles. They call themselves pederasts. And they justify it because they believe that they love these boys and, they adore them. And look, thankfully, Adams has not backed down. He has basically said he's come out fighting again, swinging again. And he said in 50 years, the ABC has never apologised over its 1975 Australian broadcast or pedophile broadcast. Yesterday, ABC said that they were against the publication on the basis that they were concerned with the potential impact on victims. If the ABC has genuine sympathy for its victims, then they can release the official statement today condemning the broadcast, whose host was Richard Neville. And then the ABC chairman was Richard Downing. So, and he actually defended the broadcast. John Adams has written here. So it is said that their silence speaks volumes, which I completely agree.
Well, I think it's very interesting to note that back then in the ABC, you had some pretty unsavoury characters, I think, who were starting to come to the fore. There, was a complete contrast to the likes of what the ABC ran in so much as the Country Hour, the Richie Benno stuff with the coverage of the cricket, what we consider to be very straight-laced and very what have you. But there was some pretty dodgy sort of people who were involved in it then, and I just wonder, you've got a number of people who were shut down by John Howard, a number of pedos who are under investigation. And I just wonder what names might have been connected to some of the stuff that we heard today. And I actually heard that broadcast today, Caz, and it's very, very disgusting the way they talk about this. And but then, having said that too, I've seen a number of universities over the last few years have speakers that are now talking about they think that pedophilia should be made normal. It's only normal. It shouldn't be illegal. So these are the disgusting, scummy creeps that we're dealing with. So, I think that it's well done to John for bringing this up. And it would be interesting to see where that all fits in with the likes of Bill Heffernan and his report.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Especially since our crew have been standing for over 2,000 days, I think, or 1,200 days for the Exposure 28. So let's get on to other things. Now, Topher has broken down the real numbers with regards to buying a house, and it's startling.
$1.94 million in after-tax income to pay the principal and interest on the loan, plus another $78,000 in after-tax income to pay the rates, and another $57,000 in after-tax income for the stamp duty, for a total of around about $2,080,000 in after-tax money to pay off and live in your $1 million home. To do that, before tax, you have to earn approximately $3.3 million and pay over $1.2 million in income tax alone, just so that you can have the after-tax income to pay the various property taxes and pay for the house principal and interest on the mortgage. Which means that anyone who has paid their home off over 30 years has already given the government the purchase price of the home or more in taxes. And yeah, it'll vary from person to person, obviously. Different houses are worth different amounts, different people have different taxable incomes. I am absolutely estimating and fudging to a certain degree, but I'm also not including a bunch of other things like, for example, any home improvements you make to your own home, renovating a bathroom or a kitchen. Well, you have to do all of that in after-tax dollars as well.
And they're doing such a startling job that we're actually now listed as second last on the OECD data. Have a look at this.
Second place. How's Australia doing? Number 37 out of 38 of the richest countries in the world. This isn't some political spin. This is OECD hard data that is printed by the Australian Financial Review. This is the global scoreboard for efficiency and prosperity. And Australia came second last. And let's talk about our decline. 30 years ago, we were in the top 10. 20 years ago, 15th place. 5 years ago, 25th place. And now, second last. And it starts to get a little fucking embarrassing when you go, who's ahead of us? Okay, Costa Rica, Slovakia, Lithuania, Estonia. I mean, we're all shitting on these countries saying their standard of living is terrible, but they're better off than us. And before you start saying, oh, the US is almost at the top. And this matters because it's the backbone of living standards. When it grows, wages rise, investment flows, and the cost of living is somewhat manageable. And when it falls, wages become flat, costs rise, and opportunities go out the window for everyone. Aussies are working harder than ever and they're not seeing it in their pays. Housing's more expensive. Taxes are so much greater than they were 10 years ago. Families are stretched even thinner. They can't get by. And that is the direct consequence of being second last. And
and it's not just the OECD data too, it's being reflected here because the Australians have actually said that it's also the latest ANZ Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence Survey has shown consumer sentiment has weakened again in October. So it's basically, in order for people to actually go out and spend money, they've got to have some sort of confidence, but it's very clear that there's not really any confidence left in this government.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, when you look at why we're in this position, we did hear Schwab from the WEF say you'll own nothing. But we go back to, I think it was 1975, when we got into the Lima Agreement. That was exactly what this was intended to do. This is the whole purpose of signing up to the Lima Agreement. So, when we hear our politicians in Parliament, both sides, talk about, the Labor Party's no good at managing finance and whatever, and the Liberal Party are this. These politicians, they absolutely know that that's got nothing whatsoever to do with it. They know that it's because we're signed up to international agreements that they make us destroy our housing market and make it unaffordable. That's the whole purpose of why they signed up to this thing 50 odd years ago. And when we see now, the government is very, very committed to giving enormous tax breaks to international companies who want to build new homes on what they call build to rent. The plan is that Australians do not own their own homes. They, the ones that can afford it, only rent a home off multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. And for the rest of the people in Australia, they live on the streets or they don't live at all.
No, it's becoming very impossible. Like, it's almost impossible. And they're coming at us from all angles. You've got this one as well, where it's now $1,500 if you sip. So for driving fines for eating, drinking, vaping, and probably smoking as well. And that's 4 demerit points as well. So now somebody posted that this was to provide the police with an opportunity to search the vehicle. So it's just basically breaking everything open for them so that there's no rules. You have no say, which we know anyway, because they're just basically running roughshod over us at the moment.
Absolutely. And the other thing, in addition to that, Caz, is this thing is it's another opportunity to do surveillance and tracking and keep people in a perpetual state of paying off fines. You go into New South Wales now from Victoria here on the border at Tocumwal, different bridges up near, I think it might be up near Gundagai. They've got these big black boxes now sitting on the side of the road, and they tell you these boxes, they're bristling with cameras. They're telling you, it's just about counting traffic. Well, it's not, because they've got that many cameras pointed at your number plate, at your face, at the driver, all this sort of stuff. So, we're in a very bad situation here. And I know people who they're just continually paying off these fines. They're continually taking people's licenses off them now for everything from, from being on the phone to whoever you happen to associate with. So this is constant pressure and increasing pressure on people. This is what it's about. It's a psychological abuse as well as economic abuse.
Well, it is, and I think that it's showing all around, because one of the things that, now this actually quite startled me, Wade, because this is actually an extraordinary poll that shows a massive majority of Australians from every political background want to slash immigration, even including the Greens. So I find that really quite extraordinary. But, when you've got the government basically talking about what a great job they're doing, and you've got all sorts of things, people can't rent houses, they can't find houses, it's just shocking. And then you've got this like here. So it's just incredible. So Alan believes that she says here, we've created more jobs here in Victoria than any other state, and we're forecasting a surplus next year and driving down debt while delivering frontline services. Like, you have got to be kidding me. What universe do they live in?
Well, I think, as I said before, we've got politicians who, despite the evidence on the ground, they just stand there and they lie and they tell you how great a thing they're doing, what great achievements they've got, when in reality, and everybody can see, it's crashing and burning. So this is how blatant and arrogant these people are. So where are these parasites in the national media highlighting this just like you did? And the most important thing, once again, Caz, to understand, if we've got politicians from every party who are saying they need to slash immigration. Now, the most brain-dead half-wit would understand you need to slash immigration, and what they've done is a catastrophe. But people need to understand and call this out. They're deliberately doing that. And when we've got politicians and we've got the average Joe on the street saying, oh, well, we've got to send them back, or we've got to cut this, understand they're doing this because of the international obligations they have, because our politicians are loyal to the WEF and the WHO and the UN, not us. So if people don't call that particular part out, then they're totally wasting their breath. You may as well just be quiet and rack off, because you give them a free pass when people don't attack that part of the thing, which hardly anybody ever says.
No, it's but like the thing, what I find extraordinary though is they just keep on going on as though everything's fine, and it's clearly not. Here's Jacinta Allen. She was asked about the machete attack which happened at the shopping centre yesterday.
This behaviour, this brazen, shocking and dangerous behaviour should not be tolerated and will not be tolerated. That is why we have already moved to increase Victoria Police's stop and search powers when it comes to people's possession of dangerous weapons like this. And it is...
Hear that? Stop and search powers. That's for you. That's not for the bad guys. And you can see, like, it's getting, like, look at this. This is in Woolworths. Woolworths.
Look, and here's a big part of the problem, right? that scum, Jacinta Allen, gets up there like all the rest of them, and they talk the same lies and the same crap when they know that the courts, and I'll say this, and I'll wear this myself, the courts are instructed not to send those people to jail. Those people know that they can go to court. The cops will go and get them. They'll possibly lock them up overnight, put them on bail perhaps, and the next thing you know, they end up in court and they get a slap on the wrist and sent back into the mainstream, because the politicians, they want violent crime. They specifically want that. They can say then, we've got to have more powers to search, stop and seize and blah, blah, blah. And as you rightly said, Caz, that's targeted at people like us. And once again, we've got coppers who are just sick to death of rounding up the same crooks, the same criminals, and sending them off. And the next minute, they're back out on the street. So the politicians and the magistrates and the judges, they are deliberately creating this violent situation. The parole board also is deliberately creating these violent acts on the streets. And this is what people need to call it out once again. Tell it as it is. Don't just whinge about it. Tell it as it is.
Well, it is interesting because, like we've got these, and now they are talking about enforcing social cohesion. Like, we're cohesive. What's the problem? There's an obvious problem here that is not contributing to the social cohesion. Why don't you address that? And then you've got Annika Wells here, the communications director, talking about this.
Announcing a national advertising campaign that commences on the 19th of October. It's called For the Good Of, and it means for the good of our kids. We're doing these things ultimately for the good of young people in Australia. It will span television, radio, digital. We just asked the kids if there's anywhere else and anything else we should be thinking of, and we look forward to continuing that conversation.
The digital ID for the good of. The good of.
Well, people need to understand the digital ID is first of all, it's not for the good of anybody. But I'll just go back one. When we've got all these politicians sit there and say, "Oh, they're protecting the kids," they enforced these lethal injections that killed kids, and they're still killing more kids. So don't give us your crap about how much you care about kids' safety. And the digital ID thing that she's on about, and that all the politicians now on about, I would say to people, this is now front and centre. It is very real. And we've got so many people now who are so concerned about the digital ID, and justifiably so. But I would remind people that while so many of the people in the freedom movement were telling us not to spread fear and fear mongering and all this, and people should stand down. And Monica Smith was telling people, we've got nothing more to worry about. This is going back probably, 18 months, a couple of years ago, when I was speaking with her on stage in Bendigo. Just go back to your normal life. Don't worry about anything. If something happens, we'll raise up and all that sort of crap. Well, the bottom line is these people never sleep. They're doing things that are serious against us all the time. But so many of our leaders or influencers have got people to stand down, say nothing. Oh, don't be scared about anything. Well, you better damn well be scared about this because it's happening. They're unfolding it now. And if we'd have had the disinformation get across the line last November, I think it may have been, you'd be in a whole hell of a lot more trouble. So for all the dumb people who said, don't spread fear and don't panic, I suggest you better get up and pumping, because that idiotic messaging has made people go, oh, well, it's all over. We can just take a rest now. Well, the rest is about to smack you right in the face of a sledgehammer. And I suggest you get on your bike and you get on it now. And if you hear some brain dead moron saying, oh, look, stop spreading fear, I can't tell you what to do to them or should be done to them. But I'd say you better damn well listen up to what I'm saying, because your world is about to turn upside down on its head. And for many of us, it's a case of people deliberately stood down. They deliberately told people not to fight. They deliberately told people not to be scared of this stuff and do nothing. Well done. Well done.
Well, we've got a bit of support here, because the social media giants didn't even turn up today. You've got this situation.
The world's biggest social media companies have failed to show up to a hearing in Canberra. Officials from Google and Microsoft faced a grilling in Parliament yesterday to explain how they'll boot children from their platforms. There are calls for more clarity on the under-16s ban, which starts in December.
What is the plan for the 11th of December? What is the plan for the day after this social media ban kicks in?
Representatives from Meta, Snapchat and TikTok failed to attend the hearing.
I think that's very telling. Actually, I find that really positive, because they're obviously, they're not looking at it as though they're not really giving them any weight.
Oh, and look, I just say off the back of that, Caz, I've been talking to Malcolm Roberts, One Nation Senator, about some of the things they're starting to find now about censorship of people talking about anything to do with climate change that doesn't support climate change. And Malcolm was making submissions to the Select Committee on Information and Integrity of Climate Change and Energy. So wouldn't you believe it? Someone didn't turn the phone off. So at the end of the day, that Malcolm was making submissions, and we've seen now they're trying to censor people such as Malcolm and Pauline from talking about this stuff, and we're seeing now the exposure of different groups that are being funded by overseas entities to push for the censoring of people who say anything at all against climate change. Now, that could include not only senators and politicians, but farmers who might say, we don't want this renewable energy crap on our farm, or we're fighting back against the Murray-Darling Basin plan, because that's supposedly based on the scientific environmental crap, or anything at all. People who don't want lockdowns, people who don't want digital identification and carbon credit stuff. So this is very, very serious stuff. And I'll just say that one of the groups that is attacking our right to speak is a crowd called Climate Action Against Disinformation. And, there's claims now that there's been $100 million have been given over to different groups and people and lobbyists to push back against, for example, the coal industry here in Australia. And anybody who might say anything against the climate change narrative. So I'll be interviewing Malcolm Roberts tomorrow morning, Wednesday the 15th at 9 a.m. Victorian time, to talk about this stuff. Because once they start to censor us based on that kind of thing, you better understand this is very serious, and that will then expand onto censoring you from talking about anything they don't want, which is the Chinese system of social credit scores, and this is what they're going for, to shut anybody down, and this is the first step.
Well, they're coming at us from multiple angles now. One of the things that I find incredibly ironic is the fact that we've been talking about with the digital ID, the breach of security, and you have this story.
Some of Australia's most high-profile people have been leaked online, including those of the Prime Minister and opposition leader. Live to Isabel Mullen in Canberra. This is an extraordinary breach of privacy, Izzy. What's happened?
Yeah, it is, Eddie. Good morning. According to these reports, the website is using artificial intelligence to trawl through the internet, lifting that personal information from professional networking sites like LinkedIn. And like you said, the Prime Minister isn't the only person caught up in this. The phone numbers of Susan Lee, the opposition leader, Scott Morrison, the former Prime Minister, and Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, are also there as well, as thousands of media professionals and other high-profile Australians. Now,
so we have that. Now, I find it incredible because the internet is the internet is very, very fast, and this is the meme of the day, I think. So you got Albo staring at number leaked and still no missed calls.
Well, so after how many years have the government been saying, do everything digital, I've got the security, it's all great, we've got the best security in the world. And these half-wits, Albanese and Lay, and Scott Morrison and this other cretin, a lot of them should be in jail for life. But at the end of the day, if they can't even protect their phone numbers, then it makes a joke of the entire thing. And I laugh when for many years, Caz, we've been told, government won't give out this information and that information to protect your privacy. So I guarantee you the government are in the business of exposing your privacy to all and sundry, particularly to these private companies. They allow, if they were actually serious, they would not allow the likes of Facebook or Meta or whoever to demand that if you are going to use a mobile phone, you have to allow them access to everything in your phone, your files, to record your stuff, to look at your, they would go, no, you're not allowed to do that here. And if this e-safety commissioner, cracker that they've got there, she's going to carry on about certain things with regard to kids being online and ban a few things. Why isn't she saying to these media companies, no, you're not allowed to demand complete access to everybody's phones and their bits and pieces, so that they can spy on everything you do. So this e-safety commissioner is a liar. So are these mongrels in the government, and anybody that talks about that is full of it. And I'm thrilled that we see the Prime Minister and this other thing their phone numbers being exposed. They should have put them up instead of just saying, "Oh, well, you can get them off this some website." They should have put them up. As far as I'm concerned, put them up and put a bit of pressure on them to say, "Well, your security is crap, and we don't want that here."
There are some Australians that are standing up. One of them is the Northern Territory, the minister up there. She's banned the trans. She's not having anything to do with the trans thing. She's said this.
That we're seeing these woke agendas and these ideologically driven policy from Labor premiers and prime ministers who are putting the rights of people who identify as a woman, the rights of men who identify as a woman, above the rights of women who are vulnerable and in prison to be safe. We have very clear rules. Here in the Northern Territory, if you're a bloke, you go to a men's prison. If you're a woman, you go to women's prison. It's very clear cut. There are no shades of grey in this scenario in the Northern Territory.
Good on her.
Yeah. No.
We've got a lot of people standing up at the moment, which is great because every time I go onto the socials, there's somebody new that's popping up that's basically, sounding like us. So it's just there's every time we push back, we win. Now one of the people that is pushing back at the moment is this little girl here, Keisha. And she's put together a statement against the statement of heart from Uluru, and she wants the blackfellas have basically organised it, and what they're doing is they want us whitefellas to basically jump on board. I'll just play this and then I'll bring it in.
Hey everyone, there is a petition proclamation counteracting the Uluru statement from the heart. Anyone can sign to support the proclamation? So far we have outnumbered the signatures on the Uluru statement. So please keep supporting. We have 12 months on the change.org website to collect as many signatures as we can. Thank you. Have yourselves a beautiful day. Much love, Keisha.
That's quite incredible given the amount of political clout that was put behind this so-called Uluru Statement of the Heart. That made up a big part of the Voice campaign, and this is the whole problem, is that they've got a very small handful of people who call themselves the Aboriginal leadership, and you look at the likes of Thomas Mayo, and there's a few others that I can think of. These people have supposedly taken over speaking for every person of some sort of Aboriginal descent in the country, when they have absolutely no right to. But keep in mind, this is all part of, again, the World Economic Forum, and going right back to the communists. Their thing is to get involved and to control a very small number of people. And the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, that's what that was about, for the United Nations to set up a certain number of leaders throughout the indigenous populations around the world, and then take control of the whole thing. That's what it's about. So well done to the average everyday Aboriginal people who stand up, exactly the same as the ones who go on about this Invasion Day crap. There's a great number of people who are really, really decent Aussies, and whether they're Aboriginal or not, or white or whatever, they're just decent Aussies, and that's what we need more of.
Yeah, that's right. Look, on international news, we've got a few things going on. There's been a comedian in the UK that has been arrested.
Same point that the other guy we saw get arrested just made. How is this a good use of police resources that the police keep claiming are so stretched? This stuff alone should be enough to see Labor UK booted out of office in Britain for decades. And it no doubt will be come the next election. Spiked magazine says this insanity is no longer unusual, though. It must never, ever be seen as okay, however. What happened to Graham?
So we've had children being arrested in the UK. We've had people holding up signs. We've had people given warnings for singing. We've had people who are arrested for praying. So on other international news, we've got, I had to bring this in because it's hilarious. love Trump or hate him. This is hilarious.
New York. I met with many of the people in this room, and it all just started coming together. I've known so many of you for so long. You're friends of mine. You're great people. I have a couple I don't like in particular, but I won't tell you who. I have actually a few of them I don't like at all, but you'll never find out who they are. Well, maybe you will, come to think of it. But
I have a few people I don't like at all. It's just hilarious. Okay. And then on other international news, the health ranger, Mike Adams, the health ranger. A lot of people don't know, but he's got his own labs, and I think he was actually a computer scientist by trade, but he has announced that in the next 24 hours, he's going to change everything. And he's designed his own downloadable AI engine, and you can use it offline. There's no internet needed. It's completely free of charge, and it's trained on nearly 1 billion pages of content in alternative media and natural health. And he says that basically it's not infiltrated by big pharma, deep state narratives. This engine could change everything. So it's going to be free, and he's spent $2 million building it, and he's going to give it to the world for free. So, which I think is absolutely incredible.
Well, I think that the search engines that we have at the minute are becoming more and more controlled by governments. So if he's got something that they can't control, then I think that's a fantastic thing. I know a few people over the last few years have tried to put something together, but I'll just duck back to the thing in England there. The comedian who was arrested. We need to take that as very, very serious stuff, because that's the very things that I'm talking about here, Caz, in Australia. And when we see people in England who are arrested for a silent prayer, there was a woman who was actually taken down by the terrorists over there, the police, the England-hating so-called bobbies and cops and Metropolitan Police. These people are a joke to the country. They make Hitler look like an amateur when you see what's happening. But yeah, you get a kid in England who's arrested because she's got an English flag in the country. That's the national flag. So when we see the creation of this thing in the federal police here about talking about social cohesion, that's exactly what is happening in England with this bill and the bobbies over there attacking. And that's what they're doing. They're attacking the English people based on this social cohesion, exactly what the AFP have done here. So I say they're the cops in England. They are criminals. They are England-hating police, and they should be all in jail for what they've done. But this is coming here. So get on your bike now and let's fight this stuff hard.
Guys, that's well said, Wade. Now I've got here your website, which I will put it into the chat. Guys, there's a donation button there. He takes this bus around everywhere. Costs a lot to run a bus like that. So please support Wade and support the crew that goes with him as well. And Wade, we're going to be taken out by the Rocking Housewife, and it's No Digital ID is her song. And so if you would like to wrap up and close the show, I shall hit play.
Yep, that's absolutely beautiful. Look, you've got some really, really terrific songs and a lot of music coming through, Caz, that's tells the story, really. So just in terms of the bus and some donations, like we'll be heading back up to Canberra for the next sitting of Parliament. We've got a fair bit to do there, and that's turning out to be fairly successful because we're getting access to a number of these politicians. So if anybody can help us to do fuel and accommodation or whatever to do the trip up to Canberra, that'd be really great. Hope Guru's back on deck tomorrow night. Sorry, and so don't forget, keep an eye on Billboard Battalion tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Victorian time for our live interview with Malcolm Roberts, because I think you're going to be very, very shocked. And what we're seeing, Caz, over in, for example, Canada, where there's a woman and her people have been locked out of their farm. The police have chucked them out and they're destroying their stock over there, which I think are ostriches. I think we need to take very serious notice of that, because that's what what's coming to Australia. And that's why I push so hard with the farming side of things, to try and wake up our farmers and go, this is what this is about. Wake up the Australian people. They are in the business of shutting down our farmers. And so thanks very much for everyone's support. Thanks very much to you for the job you've done tonight. That's terrific. And we'll catch up with the rest of the crowd next time. Thanks a lot, Caz.
Thank you.
Digital ID, it's a government cage. Your life in their app, they're setting the stage. License, passport, vax card made. Telescreens watching, feeling your fade. Deck when it's live, voluntary they lie. Like Australia, card will make it die. Break these chains, telescreens a lie. Digital ID, we won't comply. Smash the app, let the Aussie flag scream. No big brother stealing our dreams. Australia, it's 1984 in our face. One hack, your life's gone, no trace. Cops snoop, no warrant, biometrics they take. Scans for a beer, that's a bloody disgrace. X is raging, golden leash, no way. March like this.